Guys, remember to go online, check us out, therevolutiontv.com. There you're going to see our streaming radio where you can check out all your favorite bands. And if you got any questions, if you need counseling, you want to talk to somebody, remember you're not alone.
Reality is that most people are searching. They just want to feel connected. And even the most hardcore rock stars start to wonder outside of their perception of God and their place in this universe. Because there's only one truth that can fill your soul's void. Only one, and it ain't Wikipedia.
We have a heart for the lost more so than the believer. And that's the way we write the way we do. That's why we play the venues that we do, and that's why we play the shows that we do. And I mean, so we were out with Buck Cherry, I think, one time, and that they're a band known for a lot of things that were not
lavish lifestyle.
And they actually had some strippers there, and a couple of them had come up and just said, "Hey, that song Pieces you guys have, it's just unbelievable. That song like makes me melt every time I hear it." And you know, we're looking at each other going, "Pieces?
Yeah.
That's a pretty forward song, you know." And to them, they still connected with it. There was something really primal, and even though they weren't believers, they connected with what the song was talking about being broken. And so I think that's one of the cooler songs as far as.
Because of the things that we've got nowadays, is that the education of those things too. It's like there's got to be more of a saturation of like making sure kids understand that everything you see, not everything you see is truth. Not everything, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that would almost be heightened to a certain point because of
including one of their Christian friends' examples. Like we spend way too much time watching each other and judging each other and stuff, and the only person we should be paying attention to is Christ. And so I think a lot of people get the stereotypes and everything wrong because they're looking at the wrong examples. So I think like people thirsting for knowledge and finding things out for themselves prevents that from happening because they have their own perspective on things, whereas they can go to a church or have a friend where they can share ideas with and agree on certain things and talk about other things they may not disagree or may agree on. The playing field has been leveled completely, and we've got to adjust our approach. And I think that's one thing that this band is real big about. We tour primarily in the mainstream market, and we're in touch with people that don't know Christ every day. We don't always set the best examples, like I was saying before. We're not somebody to look at and say, okay, I want to live like that guy because he's got it all figured out. It's when it comes down to it, if you want to have a conversation about how I got myself out of the gutter, we can definitely do that. And I think for somebody to want to ask you to do that in the first place, they've got to have a certain level of trust and a certain level of camaraderie with you in the first place, because I could look at somebody and as a human being be completely judgmental, like, okay, they're not dressed like I would want to talk to somebody like that, like somebody who wears lots of heavy makeup and paints their face white and things like that. Maybe that person just likes to do that, and but they have a lot that they could teach me, but I, as a stupid human with my little brain, is going to say I'm just going to turn that person off because they're not my kind of person. And I think that's what's happening a lot, is we're turning each other off and we're pushing each other away. Even as Christians, we see somebody and like, I don't know about that. Like, we got to stop doing that.
It's that comfort zone you're afraid of jumping out of.
We were in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'll never forget this. I was sitting in the green room with Wes, the lead singer, and I was on the phone with my wife, and I got the phone, and I looked over, and Wes was writing something down, and he had this little book with him, and I'm like, so I go over, and I think it was the second day of the tour or whatever, so we really hadn't had a chance to talk or anything like that, but our manager was pressing us real hard to talk to him and talk, get involved with our.
This is Wes, the lead singer.
The lead singer of Puddle Mud.
Puddle Mud.
Yeah.
And I go over, and it's a book of the New Testament. So he had I guess he had a huge falling out in his life with his family and everything. He was ended up going to a 12-step program, and one of the parts of his program was getting involved with a pastor and doing something along that avenue. And his goal was to read the New Testament, whatever. And I remember seeing him passing daily on the phone with his pastor, talking about what he learned, stuff like. Wes is out there, man. He really is. Like, he's a great guy. But he's just out there. Like, he's just been down. He's been there and back 15 times, and But it's just to see somebody like that you would never imagine. Was just a huge eye opener for us, because that's what I'm saying. We sell each other short all the time because of the way we look or what we've heard about somebody doing in the past or something like that. And a lot of people would not know that about Wes, because he's not going to go up on stage and say, "Hey, I've been reading this all day." But he carries that book around in his back pocket all day long.
It's convicting to us.
And
he read his Bible more than we did on that too.
Yeah, and so it's like to see that happen is a huge encouragement for us, because it knocks down a stereotype that we had before. And that, I think, is what's great for us, because we're seeing that happen all the time with all these different bands that we come into contact, all these different crew members, people that we come in contact with on these tours every day.
Yeah.
It's just a huge uplifting experience for us, because, you know, somewhere along the line, somebody did what we're trying to do, is plant a seed and get that person, you know, back on the right track.
We were all sitting there in the green room, and Wes was talking to us just kind of about his Bible text. He's like, man, Jesus is a crazy dude, and just started kind of going down this road. And they were their record is now out, but at the time they were still wrapping it up, and they were at the point where the label says we're not releasing this until we get X amount of more radio songs and this and that. So they were flying him on off days to Canada to write with this guy and LA to write with this guy and kind of get a couple more singles. Well, so he was just still kind of in this constant mode of writing and journaling. That's what he was talking about. He was writing everything down, and he came back the day before. He had been out to Canada and written with a writer named Brian Howes, who's worked with Skillet and who's worked with Hinder. He's a pretty well-known writer and producer. So he came back and was just like, man, yesterday I had the craziest moment or whatever, that I was just kind of thinking about stuff. And even though it was early on in the tour, like he had mentioned, we had made enough of an impact and an impression that it kind of stuck out to him. And when he was talking to us about Jesus, he was talking about Hebrews, and he opened up to Hebrews. And we always think about Hebrews as far as faith and things like that. And it's like, this guy was crazy. And he starts reading off all these texts, and just to him, it was amazing seeing his eyes open, like, can you believe this guy? This guy's nuts. And so he pulls out this lyric sheet, and at the bottom he's like, man, I was just thinking, guys, I just want to show you guys something. And he pulled out this song that he'd written the day before, and it had all of our initials down at the bottom, and the song was called
It's by Faith.
It's by Faith. And it's amazing that, because we had made some sort of impression, some seed had been planted in him prior to that, and him carrying on his Bible, it just got fed, and then out came this song. And it ended up being a song that the label hated. They hated it. I mean, he was
coming from Wes, they hated it.
They hated it.
They wanted him to be
you're Wes, you need to be a rock star.
You need to be a
talk
drug
about
addict
this and this and this. You can't talk about stuff like this. And he fought, and it ended up making the record. And it was something that he just, just that small little interaction. We didn't sit down and witness to him. We didn't bring in posters and megaphones protesting from side stage of what they were doing. We were just there hanging out, and that's all it took. Because
Man, Jesus is one crazy dude. He turned our lives upside down. George and I came from very opposite sides of the tracks. He was a former alcoholic, and I was a self-critical over-perfectionist raised in the church. But the Lord met us exactly where we were at, and He's given us new destinies and life anew. Awesome.
That's right. And you might find yourself in one of our stories and saying, hey, I can relate to them. And the same God that was taking control of her life and taking control of my life is the same God that's taking control of your life if you just let Him. Yeah. And it all starts with a relationship with His Son, Jesus, who He gave for us that we would be saved and that we would know His plan and purposes for our lives. And I challenge you right now to go out there and figure out what a real relationship with Jesus is. It's one that's going to start you out with peace and start you out with a sense of purpose and destiny. And if you want answers, you can visit us online, therevolutiontv.com. There we got some counseling links, and you can find what it really means to have a relationship with Jesus.
Well worth it. Thanks, you guys. That's been another episode of The Revolution. And hey, if God be for us, who could be against us?